Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Nepal, somewhere in Nepal, in the Himalayas. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath and Kaustubha is in flight. We're landing in England today and getting whisked away to work on some video programs for Radhanath Swami. So I'm here with Mara, our producer of the show today, and a bunch of wonderful, say hello, everybody, livers. We got a good crew here, and some of the people you guys here on Zoom already know. If you want to join us on Zoom, you can. It's really simple. You email Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com, and this is our daily study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, this is all squirrels all day.
Without Kaustubha.
Without Kaustubha. There's no governor to hold me back. But I want to say that today we did whitewater rafting down the Trishuli River. The Trishuli is it's like the trident that Lord Shiva carries. So it's a sacred river in Nepal. We also mentioned yesterday the Godavari, and I think they might even merge with the Ganga.
Oh, wow.
Why don't you do that research, Mara? See if you can see if they merge with the Ganga. And Kali Gandaki is famous because, there's two stones that you never have to install Lord Vishnu in. If you're new to the show, forgive me, it's getting esoteric quick. And like when they carve these statues of Krishna, the priest has to call the Lord to enter the stone through various rituals. And it's got to be a particular stone. It's got to be carved by a particular lineage of people. And but there's two stones. One is the stone from Govardhan Hill. That's considered Krishna already. And then there is the stones from this river up here in the Gandaki, which me and my son and Bob Healy, the King of Hearts, a regular Zoomer, as other, and Janeshwar Prabhu. We went up, and Arjuna here too, who's our friend and guide. We went up to Muktinath to get those Shalagram Shilas, and those are considered as well as worshiping a deity. Different markings talk about different incarnations. Mara, look like you got some info.
I don't.
You have nothing. Okay.
Okay.
He was hoping I'd just ignore you. Yeah. Okay. And so anyway, those stones are here too. And, so today we went whitewater rafting, which, in one sense, it's sort of like an adventure sport. So it's not that's the most sacred thing you could do. But another time we had both boats chanting, and we're both having this beautiful darshan of a sacred river the entire time. And we started getting, and if you've ever been whitewater rafting, you go through a period of rapids where you feel like we all might die right now. It's like that type of like, whoa. Yeah, I had Vicky from Cyprus was with us, sitting in front of me. She's always, if you know Vicky from Cyprus, the transcendental, she's just spinning and chanting all day long.
So enthusiastic.
She's very enthusiastic in her bhakti, just spinning around wherever we go, hotels, spinning, holy places, spinning, chanting. But in the midst of our greatest tragedy, Vicky, there's a lesson for you. You weren't chanting, she was going, ah! So you got to chant, not just when you're happy, in times of great fear and danger also. But then it would get very calm, like you're in a lake almost. And then all of a sudden it would come again. Our realization for our boat was, this is a material world. There's a calm, everything's peaceful. I got a good plan. And then there's chaos. And that's like a reoccurring theme in your life. And you're not alone in it. It's everybody's life. Matter of fact, once we've opted in for a material body, and by the way, we've all opted in for a material body. Once we've opted in to take birth, and by the way, we've all opted in to take birth, then that's what we get. That's the world of duality. It's the world of sukha and dukkha, pleasure and pain, love and heartbreak, wealth and poverty. And it's just going around and around and around in circles like that. And that's what happens in the material world. So you're on the roller coaster. Expect it. Sometimes it's those like roller coasters that are like triple loops, then it's going to go backwards and do the same thing. That's what material life is. And then it's got a flat period where it's not so scary. And that's what material existence is, truthfully. And we're here, and in yoga, what we say repeatedly about yoga is to get to this point of samadhi or sameness, where I'm preparing myself for when we have those loop-de-loop sessions. And ultimately, we're preparing us for the ultimate loop-de-loop of the roller coaster, or the high, rough rapids, the class 5 rapids of the whitewater rafting, which is we have to leave our body. Now, we hear it philosophically. It all makes sense. I understand philosophically, I own nothing. I came into this world with nothing. I own nothing. I read that on Instagram. But to actually apply that, that's work. And that's what this path is for. When I was younger, I thought I would get wise just from reading. You ever read one of those, famous quotations, famous quotations on wealth, famous quotations on compassion, so I buy back before the internet, books of famous quotes, and you get whatever, Marcus Aurelius and, Thomas Aquinas and Aristotle. And you're like, oh, that sounds wise. That sounds wise. That sounds wise. I want to be wise. But that's not what makes you wise. That's just jnana. For the yogi, for the bhakti yoga, we want vijnana, which means we need a way to imbibe this knowledge and apply this knowledge. I want a path. I want to, and that's when I came to bhakti, I was happy. There is a bhakti sadhana that we do on a regular basis. When people are coming on pilgrimage like today, we have some people who've been practicing bhakti for 20 or 25 years with us. Some people are like 3 years into bhakti. Some people just sort of stumbled upon this from, Joe Rogan or something. And some people have no idea what they're getting themselves into. So what I say to all of them is you make an experiment, and you can do this with your own life too. If you're sort of new, you make an experiment to really zip it up and be on your A game and dive in with 2 feet and see how you feel in a month. Truthfully, it's sort of like, suppose I say you should jog. Jogging is good for you. It's really good for your cardio. It strengthens your legs. The breathing is good for your consciousness and your body. And I say, it's good. And if you've ever jogged for the first time, the first few days really hurt. And then after a while, you get used to it, and then it's not a big deal. But sometimes you got to give things time before you can, right? If I say, hey, you're going to get results, you got to go to the gym, Mara. She goes to the gym twice. She sees no result. Why? Because the gym's wrong? No, because you got to give things time to work with you. Give bhakti a chance and jump in and see if you like the feeling of jumping in. Is the shower too cold for you, so to speak? Or can you actually, no, actually, I like this. Now, what I'm realizing in Nepal is it's sort of an easy in, because we have a morning satsang where we do some yoga asanas. We do some kirtan. I talk about Hari Katha, which means sacred stories and philosophy, etc. And then we're all committing to chanting something on our japa malas. And then during the course of the day, it's very beautiful. Right now, we're in the foothills of the Himalayas, maybe higher, actually. Kathmandu itself is like 5,000 feet above sea level. We're all a little bit dehydrated. And then tomorrow we start trekking. So what you have, and today we were in a beautiful river, and we're eating fresh foods. So what's happening is you're having this morning piece of medicine you're taking. And then you have sattva all day long. you're in a whitewater rafting, you're splashing around, and it's nice. You jumped off a little cliff today. Some of us jumped off bigger cliffs. The group is making fun of me because I chose the smaller cliff. I chose the 56-year-old cliff.
Well, after Raghu called a bunch of us out and we're like, no, you need to jump off the cliff, get up here. And then he was like, and then I turned around as I'm at the high cliff about to dive in. And I was like, where's Raghu? And they're like, oh, he went off the lower one. I was like, oh, I see.
Mara belly flop, by the way, on a side
No, I
note.
didn't belly flap. It was
What was it?
like more my back.
A side flop.
Back flop.
She back flopped.
It was painful.
It was a little painful. But it was cold. But my point is, during the day is all sattva. And there in the evening, we wrap it up with Bhagavatam, some kirtan or some Harikatha. And that's how, and tomorrow we'll be all trekking. So we'll have that morning program, the beautiful Himalayas. And I think it's clear out. So we'll get a good darshan. And then the evening will be wrapped up with satsang. And so during the course of the day, while we're hiking through this sattvic energy, sattvic environment, you meditate on the things that you've been hearing during the course of the day. And that's ideal. The ideal is potent, powerful beginning of the day and an end of the day. And then throughout the course of the day, a sattvic backdrop. Now, if you're going to a place like Vrindavan, or how we lead pilgrimages in India, it's just like nonstop Harikatha all day long. It's like just almost overdosing on the medicine all day long. And, and it can break you sometimes. It's just too much medicine sometimes for some people. So for them, we send them to Agra, go see the Taj Mahal. They can just digest it in their own way. But it gets very intense, but it's all day long. It never stops. So I think Nepal trek is a pilgrimage, but it's sort of like an easy in pilgrimage.
Yeah. You know what's nice is someone wrote on the chat board that they started with like a 6-month trial sadhana, and it's been 2.5 years later and they're still here.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Can we name names?
I don't know. That's why I didn't name names.
Who was it? One of you?
No. All right.
They're not on the, okay. All right.
It is public, but
is that, it's on the chat board. It's
Yeah,
Diane
okay.
from Las Vegas. We can say that. I think that's a great idea. You test the waters and see how they are. You test the water and see how it is and see if you like it. And of course you come to different seasons of life where you can dive in a little bit deeper, I remember when I had COVID this year and I was feeling like I could leave my body, and the doctors weren't saying, no, you're going to be fine. The doctors were like, you could leave your body. Those are times where, you could, if you're coherent, you really got to turn it up. You really got to get hearing and chanting in. This is what we've been training for, the big transition. Otherwise, it's just little ups and downs transitions. But I will say, no matter what you take of this medicine, it's something good. We were saying this to the students yesterday. If you have a reservoir of water, you can fill a cup up. You can also fill a bathtub up. You can also fill up a swimming pool. So sometimes you get into bhakti, you really dive in, do a prescribed amount, do a month, do 2 months if you're new to this, do 3 months. But you got to give it some chance, like the gym. And then you reassimilate, you start to rethink, what was that like? How did that affect me? What can I take away from this? How can I add this to my life a little? Maybe this is too extreme the way I did it that last month, but what can I take away from this? And therefore you can take a cup away. A cup is wonderful, right? A little bit of bhakti is wonderful to add to your life, right? A bathtub full of bhakti is not, and a swimming pool of bhakti is great. So we start to figure out who we are and what we need. And sometimes a little bit of bhakti to your life can change your whole entire life, because sometimes we've drifted so far off from our spiritual trajectory. Maybe we never even had a spiritual trajectory. Maybe I've never thought of myself as a spiritual person. So anyway, this is our life. We are on the whitewater rafting of our life, and some of us are in calm water right now, where people are just, cruising down. Some people are doing exciting things with their life right now. They're jumping off the cliffs into the calm water, and some of us are going through the rapids right now, and some of us, our boat is completely flipped over. So wherever we're at, the Bhagavatam is there for us, and it is sort of like that lifeline that really saves us It's one of the qualifications, or not the qualifications, it's called one of the symptoms of bhakti is it relieves us immediately from material distress. So just following the principles of controlling your senses, controlling your mind, not engaging in activities that are going to damage me. Not because God is shaming us, or not because God doesn't want us to have fun, because it's just to keep the car on the road. Following the principles of restraint and self-control and not taking drugs or alcohol. That's not because God doesn't want us to party. Spiritual life is a big party. It's just that's just to keep your car from functioning so you don't slip down, right? The landslide of addictive behavior. Some of us have been there. We don't want to go there again. Come on. We can take some questions today, but we're going to dive into the Bhagavatam. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devam saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before we start in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya Bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes of the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Agyana Timurandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Some people are writing on the chat board, I have questions. I get it. We have questions. The best way when people are new to bhakti, I say just listen to the podcast on your downtime, because we cover a lot of stuff. And if it sounds foreign, understandable, it's completely foreign. The clothes are foreign. The food is foreign. Everything about it is sort of foreign to the way we grow up in standard American culture. But truth is for all people. India doesn't have a monopoly on truth. The Christians don't have a monopoly on truth. Islam doesn't have a monopoly on truth. Truth is like math. 2 + 2 is 4. That's not Jewish math, Hindu math, etc. So when you hear truth, it resonates with the heart. And something will land for you today if you're new to this. So you just got to be a little tolerant, like we're going to the gym. So we are telling the story of Dhruva Maharaj, who was a young boy, who's advised by, who was, should I be the rewinder today?
Yeah, be the rewinder.
Okay, little boy Dhruva, his father was the king. He had 2 queens, and the father tended to favor not his mother, favored the other queen. And so Dhruva jumped on his dad's lap when his stepbrother was on the lap, and the stepbrother was on the lap, and the stepmother got a little nasty with him and said, "You know what? You cannot come up on my lap, on the king's lap, unless you come from my womb." It was something really sort of like condescending to this little child. Now, these little childs are born in families of warriors, so they have a little bit of like a warrior's ego. And even at age 5, he was like, I want revenge. How dare they insult me and my mother? And he was basically made up his mind. I want to go and learn how to go into the forest, become a yogi, right? This is part of a culture where, here it is thousands, millennia later. This isn't 5,000 years ago. When Dhruva was here, it was millennia and millennia ago. You can still find remnants of sages and yogis and hermits and tapasvis in India and Nepal today. So Dhruva understood the culture. Okay, I know how to get revenge. I'm going to go to the forest and seek out some yogic cities. This is the goal of yoga. I was saying this in the bus today during class. Like, the goal of yoga was just not fitness. The goal of yoga in a lot of cases were cities, mystical powers. And with these cities, you have supernatural powers. Like even the study of yoga, hatha yoga pradipika is basically how to be a superhuman, And And of course, we get the remnants of it in the West. We don't even think that stuff's real. So we just say, well, it's good for my, lower back pain. It's good for that too.
Okay, so Dhruva went in the forest.
So Dhruva went in the forest. Thank you for keeping me on track, Mara. Dhruva went in the forest. And he started doing this worship of the personality of Godhead, worship of Vishnu. Vishnu gave him a mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate
Vishnu gave
Vasudevaya.
him the mantra?
Oh, not
Narada.
Vishnu. Sorry. Narada. Narada's an interesting character
Yeah, like
because, Narada is sort of a, is this a word? A provocateur?
It is a word.
You like that?
Yeah,
Word
very
nerd.
impressed.
A provocateur. He instigates, like that kid in school says, go ahead. You hear what he said about you? You should hit him. I think you should hit him, start fights, pick fights. But when Narada does, because Narada's friends with Ravana. Even Ravana liked Narada. He'd allow he's like, I don't usually get along with sages, but Narada comes and gives me some good advice. Narada told Ravana, I was just reading this today. Narada told Ravana, hey, Ravana, why are you fighting these humans? They're nothing. You should go fight Yamaraj. And then so Ravana got in a whole fight with Yamaraj. And he's like, thanks, Narada. Thanks for looking out for me. And what happens is usually when a sage does something, it has an auspicious effect, right? When a person who's in degraded consciousness, and when I say that, I don't say it in a condescending form. I just know because there's been times in my life that have been very degraded and I've had degraded consciousness. It sends a ripple effect of inauspiciousness to everybody we touch. Just like if you have a friend that's a drug addict, an alcoholic, they're not ruining their life exclusively. They're ruining everybody else that loves them's life as well. They're taking down a whole fleet of people. So in the same way, Narada would come in and as a great sage, and he'd sometimes bless and he'd sometimes curse. He'd sometimes give advice. He'd sometimes instigate. So a lot of times demons sort of liked him because they thought, well, this guy doesn't have any bad interest. Like he came and would speak to Kamsa and he instigated Kamsa into attacking, right? Trying to find Krishna. Krishna could be born. You should find these newborn children. And so he instigated Kamsa to try to kill Krishna. And why did he do that? Why was that a good thing? Because he makes the Leela unfold quicker. And that is one reoccurring theme. So here is Narada. He's floating down the history. And I say float because he's not bound by time. Time is for the materially engrossed, like myself. And but he's floating through and he becomes the guru for young Dhruva, who at a very young age, by the way, a lot of times we're reading these stories like, you know what? I like the wisdom of the Srimad Bhagavatam, but come on, Raghu, a 5-year-old went to the forest and became a tapasvi. Give me a break. I got news for you. There's a lot of recorded historical people that did some pretty fascinating things. I can't even speak for the rest of India per se, or the rest of the world. But in India, we have my guru's guru. What's that? A great-grandfather guru? Great-grandfather guru, Bhakti Siddhanta, master of the Bhagavad Gita, age 4. We've had great acharyas like Shankaracharya, took sannyas at age 8. That means he became in the renounced order, giving up his family life. Family life? He has no family. He lives with his mom. He took off and he initiated 10,000 disciples and walked, not took the Rajdhani Express from Delhi to Calcutta. He walked to Badrinath. He walked to South India. He walked with all his disciples to Puri. He walked with all his disciples to Dwarka to establish mutts. Mutts are like ashrams that still exist today. This isn't just fiction because it happened thousands of years ago. This was an 8-year-old. There's some special kids out there. Karuna's on the show right now. She's 8 years old. She might take sannyas if she wasn't busy building forts.
It's snowing in Lebanon.
It's snowing in Lebanon. All right.
The second time in her life that it's
If you're new to the show, Karuna listens to the show live on Zoom every day. She's 8 years old, and she's our pundit.
Yeah.
She
So back
quotes
to
her.
Dhruva.
Back to Dhruva. Well, that's it. So now we're going through this.
Okay.
All right. I lost the page.
There you
There it is. All right. Let's dive in.
So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 8, Text 57.
Oh, I forgot. Vivi says, make announcements about Italy. If you want to go to Italy with this, we did an incredible Wisdom of the Sages retreat last year. It's at a Tuscan villa that turned into an ashram. So you get the best of both worlds. You get to experience ashram life, which is fun. Meet cool people, Wisdom of the Sages family. And you get the beautiful countryside and the beautiful architecture and the Tuscany. If you've ever been to Tuscany, it's breathtaking. And we do fantastic day trips. We do kirtan. Last time we did this phenomenal kirtan in Siena. We go to the Cinque Terre, which is this beautiful. Oh, you weren't there.
No, but I've been to Cinque Terre.
You've been to Cinque Terre?
I have, yeah.
I think Cinque Terre is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to.
Yeah, breathtaking.
It's breathtaking.
Yeah.
Right? Narayani? Narayani says yes. So if you're interested, wisdomofthesages at .com, wisdomofthesages.com, and go to the events tab. Okay. My dear Dhruva, this is text 57. My dear Dhruva, this is Narada speaking. Besides worshiping the deity and chanting the mantra 3 times a day, you should meditate upon the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead, his different incarnations as exhibited by his supreme will and personal potencies. I thought we read that.
You might have.
One should follow in the footsteps of the previous devotees regarding how to worship the Supreme Lord with the prescribed paraphernalia, or one should offer worship within the heart by reciting the mantra to the personality of Godhead, who is non-different from the mantra. Isn't that interesting? The personality of Godhead is non-different from the mantra when you chant these Vaishnava mantras. That means to call Krishna here, you got to call him. You've got to invite him, right? That's why sometimes in kirtan, I'm looking at you guys, sing it, sing, call Krishna, call him here. And Krishna comes because he's potent in his sound vibration. But you got to call him like you want him, right? Just like you're calling a taxi in New York. Taxi! You can't say, taxi. They're not going to come. You got to want that taxi. You want Krishna? Invite him in your life. Sometimes I like to just go wander in the forest and just chant very loud. Not that I don't do things loud, even when I'm in the city or the country, but sometimes I just like to scream Krishna's name when I'm walking in the forest. Another thing I wanted to mention about that verse, did you just get rid of that verse? Okay. Is we follow in the footsteps. So when I was saying this morning in class too, when I first got into, when I decided I want a spiritual life, I used to go to these spiritual bookstores where you find a book on, the Tibetan Book of the Dead and Aleister Crowley and gemstones and, Satyananda, Saraswati Yogi, and different books, Christ consciousness, whatever it is. And I just got more confused. I really wanted to say, I was like, I want to be on a path. I don't want to read a book. I want a path. I want a daily practice. Spell it out for me. And I found like this bhakti sadhana is so powerful. And really, a lot of you guys are doing this on a regular basis. You wake up in the morning and you listen to the podcast. We go over the Bhagavatam. That's part of a sadhana. And that's not a new sadhana. It wasn't created with Wisdom of the Sages. This has been going on for 50 years, 100 years, 500 years. People have been sitting together. Like right now, we've got about 20 people here. We're sitting together and we're hearing the Bhagavatam. This has been going on before recorded time. And we sing a little and we eat some vegetarian food that we offer with love, and we do it in the morning. And if you're doing in the morning, that's great. Let's do it a little bit in the evening too. And that's a good nightcap, because the night we tend to drag our consciousness to tamas. If you're familiar with the guna theory, it's governed by these 3 energies. Morning is sattva, isn't it? Very sattva. You wake up at 4:30 in the morning. Everything's quiet. Even the thieves and criminals have gone to sleep, just like, and daytime, right? Daytime is busyness. At high noon, ever try to meditate at noon? Very difficult to meditate. If you chant japa, very difficult to chant japa at noon. Why? Because even the mind, the vrittis of the mind are stirred up. and the evening goes right to tamas. It sort of seems peaceful, but it's borderline with it borders goodness. So it appears peaceful, but every time that is a really easy time to put your feet up, turn on the TV, pop you a cold one. Because why? That's what tamas is. So if you've got that tendency, you take a little time in the evening. You know what's a good thing to do? Take a shower in the evening. Brahmins take shower at least twice a day, and it keeps the consciousness clean. Just like the Christians say, cleanliness is next to godliness. When you take that second shower in the evening, when you can feel your body go into a tamasic state, it can lift you up, and just have a little time together by yourself, with your family, invite some friends over, and just have some hearing and chanting together. And it just changes everything. Sometimes we do that on Patreon. We do, a Sweet Baby Krishna, or somebody gives an evening class. And it's just a good way to wind down the day.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, my point was there have been people that have been on this path 10 years before me, 20 years before me, 100 years before me. And we learn from them. We learn, just like there's trails. If you want to walk on the Appalachian Trail, there's people who have walked from Atlanta to Maine before me. If I want to make that walk, there's people who have already done it. I can read their notes, how much I should pack, right? Should I pack a tent? What's the weather going to be like if I go in June? You're just a Google search away from finding people who've walked that trail before you. In the same way, you're not alone with your struggles in the material world. You're not alone with your addictions. You're not alone with your attachments. You're not alone with your dealing with your friends who have no interest whatsoever in spirituality. We're all in this in some degree or another. And it's this Sangha that we keep, this community that we keep, helps us deal with it all in a very healthy and uplifting way. So it doesn't complicate our life, but it enhances our life. So that's another powerful thing about being part of a tradition and a path, is people have gone there. People know the pitfalls. They know where the sinkholes are, and they know where the ladders are. What's a fast way to make advancement on this path, and what are the things we have to worry about. Text 59 and 60. Anyone who thus engages in the devotional service of the Lord, seriously and sincerely with his mind, words, and body, and who is fixed in the activities of the prescribed devotional methods, is blessed by the Lord according to his desire. If a devotee desires dharma, artha, kama, moksha, the translation is like your dharma, right? Your material religiosity, some religious duties. So, right. So economic development, we got to figure out, okay, what do we do for a living, right? Sense gratification, how to have some fun in this world, and ultimately, your liberation from this world. It's saying here that if a devotee desires all these things from the material world, he is awarded these results. If one is very serious about liberation, they must stick to the process of transcendental loving service, engaging 24 hours a day in the highest stage of ecstasy. And he must certainly be aloof from all activities of sense gratification. What do you think about that, Mara?
I don't think I can do it.
24 hours a day? Well, you can't with that attitude, that's for sure. I don't think I can do. Get out of here. I think you can, because I believe in you.
Thanks, Raf.
Yeah. If you're serious about anything, right? You want to get serious about violin? Then you got to get serious about it. You can't just play it when you feel like it. If we want to get good
at
at
violin 24 hours a day.
Sleeping? Well, here's the deal. Let me tell you about something about jujitsu. I can refer to jujitsu.
Okay.
Even when I wasn't doing jujitsu, when I was in the throes of 6 days a week of jujitsu, 1 day a week of mixed martial arts, I'd be sitting in my car, sitting at dinner and thinking, okay, how could I take this guy's, if something happened here, how could I reach out and put this guy in an arm lock? how can I take the back of this guy? If I'm on the subway, if this guy over here went berserk, how could I subdue him? That's
interesting.
so yeah, it's a meditation, and if that's part of your dharma is to protect, then that's your meditation too. So yeah, so ideally, yes, it is 24/7. And not only that, how can that be when you sleep? Because eventually sleep, which is tamasic, becomes purified. And even that tamasic sleep, your dreams become channels of information. Never have a spiritual dream?
Yeah.
What happened?
Sometimes.
No, I'm serious. Tell me. Tell the story.
No.
Come on. You've never had a spiritual dream?
I mean, I have.
Are you a secret spiritual dream? What the hell?
Exactly.
You don't want to share a spiritual dream with us?
I wasn't ready.
She wasn't ready. Okay. Tomorrow, we want your spiritual dream. And we want to learn something from your spiritual. I've had lots of spiritual dreams.
Well, then why don't you share your spiritual dream?
Because I don't want to come off like I'm the prophet or something. I want to see if my assistant and producer has a spiritual dream. How many people have had a spiritual dream? Raise your hand, live.
Narayani
Never had a
has-
spiritual
she
dream?
just-
Narayani has a spiritual dream.
Yes.
Vicky from Cyprus.
Yeah, Vicky has.
Narayani, what was your spiritual dream? Say it loud. Oh, he won another private spiritual dream. Anyway.
Thank
All right.
you.
They're keeping their spiritual dreams private. Anyway, every now and then you might have a spiritual dream, maybe once a week, maybe 5 times a week. Maybe we have nightmares every night, right? That's a whole nother story. Eva, the Polish princess, and her nightmare disappearing with the magic jewel. But we're not going to get into that squirrel right now. And where was I? That squirreled me right off.
All right. We were talking about 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day. If you've had spiritual dreams once a week, once a month, imagine when your consciousness is so high that all you can do when you hit the pillow is have divine visions. It's a reality. And if you've had a little taste of it from one dream, just like if you've had a great experience in kirtan, I got news for you. You're allowed that 24/7. That's your birthright. We're not here to have a spiritual experience. Our whole existence is a spiritual existence. I'm a spiritual being. That's what we are. All of my experiences should be spiritual. We flipped it around like, oh yeah, let's go hiking today. Have a spiritual experience. Your whole life is a spiritual experience. I'm just doing it wrong. I'm just attached to matter because I think that matter will satisfy my heart. That's an illusion. Matter won't satisfy my heart. You know why? I'm a spiritual being. Let's continue. Karuna had one. Okay, Karuna, you got to share it she'll share it. Put it on the board, Karuna.
62.
Text 62. When Dhruva Maharaj, the son of the king, Maharaj just means king, the Maharaj, the great king. So the little boy, Dhruva Maharaj, the son of the great king, was thus advised by the great sage Narada. He circumambulated Narada. That's in India. It's a tradition, spiritual culture. You walk around something, you circumambulate, right? So he circumambulated his guru. He walked around him with folded hands, and he offered him respectful obeisances. Then he started for Madhuvan. So Madhuvan's a sacred place. We were just in that area last week. It's one of the forests of Braj in northern India, so he says, which is always imprinted with the lotus footprints of Lord Krishna, and which is therefore especially auspicious. I wasn't looking at you to say scroll up. I was just looking at you
I was just trying to help.
in great appreciation for Madhuvan and Lord Krishna's footprints. Imagine seeing Krishna's footprints. When Dhruva Maharaj, the son of the No, 63. After Dhruva Maharaj entered Madhuvan forest to execute bhakti, the great sage Narada thought it was wise to go to the king to see how he was faring within the palace. So now he's going back to his father. So Narada comes in. Narada Muni approached the king. The king received him properly, offering him due obeisances, right? Even a king will see a sage. The sage comes in off the streets and he welcomes him, right? After being seated comfortably, Narada began to speak. Here's Narada. My dear king, your face appears to be withering up, and you look like you have been thinking of something for a very long time. Why is that? Have you been hampered in following your path of dharmic rights, in economic development, or you're in your sense gratification? By the way, they use these words: religious rights, economic development, sense gratification. These are called the three aims of human existence. And it's dharma, artha, and kama. Dharma, artha, and kama. And when you get sick of those, moksha, liberation. So these are just words you hear when you study Vedic thought. The king replied, O best of the Brahmanas, right? I am very much addicted to my wife, right? So he had one wife he really favored, and she had a lot of control over him. And we know anything. Whenever we're very attached to something or someone, that thing owns us. It could be a bottle of wine or a 6-pack of beer or my bank account. Whatever we are addicted to, that thing controls us. So the mind doesn't get rid of addictions. They're there. We are just changing what we're addicted to. We want things that either make us stronger, healthier, or more spiritual. Let's get addicted to those things that serve us instead of breaking us down. So he said, I've been so fallen. I'm addicted to this one particular wife. I'm so fallen, I've abandoned all merciful behavior, even to my son. He's 5 years old. I have banished him and his mother, even though he is a great soul and a great devotee. So he had this really nice wife, wise wife, this other wife, but he was just sort of neglected her. And now the son feels abandoned too. My dear Brahmana, the face of my son was just like a lotus flower. I am thinking of his precarious condition. He is unprotected, right? He went to the forest. By the way, when you go to the forest, we're not talking about upstate New York. You're walking into the jungles of India. You got panthers, leopards. There was a thing for, I must have said this once. Once or twice, that a leopard came into a school in South India, just took one of the kids. Could happen here. Don't laugh, people. They're going right for you, Eva. The Polish prince is going to be taken away by a leopard. You just got to fight it off. They're not that big. But if it's a Bengal tiger, you're through. We can't help you there. I think you could fight off a leopard. Sorry, we lost everybody. And it's getting dark. Okay.
Can you just ask them for thumbs up if they can hear us?
Thumbs up if you can hear me, everybody. Okay, great.
No, back to this one.
Okay. My son might have laid down somewhere in the forest, and the wolves might have attacked him to eat his body. I don't think there were wolves here. Are there wolves here, Janeshwar? Well, in India in general. Yes, okay. We got a yes from our local. Alas, just see how I was conquered by my wife. Just imagine my cruelty. Out of love and affection, the boy was trying to get up on my lap, but I did not receive him, nor did I even pat him for a moment. Just imagine how hard-hearted I am. And the great sage Narada replied, my dear king, please do not be aggrieved about your son. He is well protected by the personality of Godhead. Right? Sometimes you hear about kids who just wander off, but nothing happens, right? That was me and Kaustubha when we were teenagers, wandering off to New York City. We're lucky we're alive.
Yes, we're protected too.
We are protected by the personality of Godhead. The great sage, do not be aggrieved. He is well protected. Although you have no actual information of his influence, his reputation is already spread all over the world. My dear king, your son is very competent. He will perform activities which would be impossible, even for great kings and sages. Very soon, he will complete his task and come back home. You should know that he will also spread your reputation all over the world. The great sage Maitreya continues. So Maitreya is like sort of the narrator of the story. The king, Uttanapada, after being advised by Narada, practically gave up all duties in relationship with his kingdom. So he's like retirement time, which was very vast and wide, opulent like the goddess of fortune. And he simply began to think of his son, Dhruva. Now, elsewhere, Dhruva, having arrived at Madhavan, took his bath in the river Yamuna and observed fasting in the night with great care and attention. After that, as advised by the great sage Narada, he engaged himself in worship personality of Godhead. For the first month, Dhruva ate only fruits and berries on every third day. So he got into the serious fasting protocol. So not only, we were talking about fasting yesterday, we were saying when you fast, your mind gets incredibly sharp because all digestion is going it just stays within the mind. Yeah, if you've ever have to take a test or anything like that, do not eat. Fast for half a day. For the first month, okay, so he only ate fruits and berries every third day, only to keep his body and soul together. And in this way, he progressed in his worship of the personality of Godhead. In the second month, Dhruva Maharaj ate only every 6 days for his eatables, and he took dry grass and leaves. What? He only took dry grass. Wheatgrass juice? Doesn't sound good. Thus, he continued his worship. Okay, we're going to let that pass. In the third month, he drank water only every 9 days. Thus, he remained completely in trance and worshiped the personality of Godhead, who is adored by selected verses. You know, someone just told me.
What's that?
You were there, I think. Oh, that guy who does all the fasting in India that we know.
Mm-hmm. The one who Gauravani followed.
Yeah. He's like, what was the deal? He fasted for how many years on water? Janeshwar?
Like 10 years or something.
Some ridiculous amount of years he fasted. Yeah, well, at least like 2 years on water. I mean, when you say stuff like that, that ruins the whole vitamin industry. You need vitamins. You need superfoods.
Protein.
You need protein. He was drinking water. It's not an anomaly. It's just like we have a different concept of health that we're pushing on people. But this person, he flips that whole theory of, protein and fats and carbohydrates up in his back, and is sharp and he's healthy and he's lucid when he speaks. Anyway, my point being,
but I don't think everybody has a body type for long fasts like that, right?
Mara says, I don't think everyone's got a body type for long fasts like that.
I do. I can fast, but
I like to fast too. I don't know. Oh wow, Karuna's got a story, but I can't read it either. Don't read it. Why?
I just meant don't read it right now because we're reading the Bhagavatam.
Oh, okay. I understand. Did Kaustubha tell you to keep my squirrels in check? Is that why you're taking so much liberty to keeping my squirrel on a short leash? Okay. Where are we?
We were talking about drinking water only.
Drinking about water. So he's drinking water every 9 days. Thus, he remained completely in trance and worshiped the personality of Godhead. It was adored by selected verses.
What's that mean?
It just means like what we say, Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Naishtiki. That means Krishna, who is praised with transcendental songs. He's adored by selected verses. In the 4th month, so he's on a 4th month cleanse here. On the 4th month, he got a colonic. Just kidding. Was that offensive? I don't think so. I was just being silly. The 4th month, Dhruva Maharaj became a complete master of the breathing exercise pranayam, and thus he inhaled air only every 12th. What? Only every 12th day. And in this way, he became completely fixed in his position and worshiped the supreme personality of Godhead. What do you think of that?
Wow.
Okay, you got to save the chat if I want to read it after the show. Because
Yeah,
Karuna
we
told me
always
her
save the
dream.
chats.
Okay. By the fifth month, Dhruva Maharaj, the son of the king, had controlled his breathing so perfectly that he was able to stand on only one leg, just as a column stands without motion, and concentrate his mind fully on the by the way, standing in a tree, it's That's right. Guys, have you ever seen one leg in India? I'd see. Speak.
Yeah.
So sorry, you guys. All right. Mara, where's our thing? There it is. Let's just wind this up. Wait, before we start, let's just wind that up. He completely controlled the senses and their objects, and in this way, he fixed his mind without diversion to anything else upon the form of the personality of Godhead. When Dhruva Maharaj thus captured the supreme personality of Godhead, who is the refuge of the total material creation and who is the master of all living entities, the three worlds began to tremble. So this is how powerful Bhakti is. It says, all the demigods become like in awe and in shock. As Dhruva Maharaj, the king's son, kept himself steadily standing on one leg. Oh, that's where we last left off.
Yeah.
These strange ashrams where people do cities by standing on one leg. I've seen it. It's incredibly peculiar, especially if you do study American yoga. It makes no sense whatsoever. As Dhruva Maharaj, the king's son, kept himself steadily standing on one leg, the pressure of his big toe pushed down half the earth. What? Just as an elephant being carried on a boat rocks the boat left and right with his every step. Last verse, and we'll wind this up. When Dhruva Maharaj became practically one in heaviness with Lord Vishnu, the total consciousness, due to his fully concentrating and his closing all the holes of his body. Thus, total universal breathing became choked, and all the great demigods in the planetary systems felt suffocated and took shelter of the personality of Godhead. Now I need to read that purport. Hold on one second. I want to read that purport. Are people here? There they are. Okay. Purport. When hundreds of persons are sitting on an airplane, although they remain individual units, they each share in the total force of the airplane, which runs at thousands of miles per hour. Similarly, when a unit of energy is identified with the service of the total energy, the unit energy becomes as powerful as the total energy. That is a good analogy. As explained in the previous verse, Dhruva Maharaj, because of his spiritual advancement, became almost the total heaviness, and thus he pressed down the whole earth.
Wow.
Moreover, by such spiritual power, his unit body became the total body of the universe. Thus, when he closed the holes of his unit body to firmly concentrate his mind on the personality of Godhead, all the units of the universe, namely all living entities, including the demigods, felt the pressure of suffocation as if their breathing were being choked. Therefore, they all took shelter of the personality of Godhead because they were perplexed as to what had happened.
Takeaways.
Okay, Mara, takeaways, please. Sorry, I went over.
We're all in training for the moment of death. Our sadhana trains us to call for Krishna during the rapids and turbulences of life.
Like that
You need a regulated, committed practice to see results.
in anything.
Yep. A little bit of bhakti is wonderful to add to your life. So is a bathtub or swimming pool of bhakti.
That's got to be Matt Godin.
I
Is that jujitsu enough?
think I mean, you said it. I think I wrote it down for.
Okay.
God is not non-different from the mantra, so invite him in. You have to
Invite
call him.
Krishna in. Invite him. Send him an invite.
Follow the notes and directions of previous travelers on the path.
What's that?
Follow the notes and directions of the previous travelers on the path.
I like that. I like that.
You said it. I said it. Our whole life is a spiritual experience. And get addicted to things that serve us.
I like that. Thanks everybody for joining us. Sorry for the couple of bad interruptions with our internet. We're here in the Himalayas. Tomorrow we start our trekking. I think tomorrow it's going to be
Are we going to poker tomorrow?
oh yeah, we don't start trekking. We go to Pokhara tomorrow. My bad. Start our trekking the next day. And I think it's Holi in 2 days. They celebrate Holi. We'll see how that turns out. Holi in Nepal. That's the color festival. But if you want to join us on our virtually through this trek, it'll be fun. We can check in with each other and we'll give you all the updates. And thanks. And Kaustubha should be joining us again. And thanks for everybody on Zoom for tolerating this connection. And those others out there. Again, check out wisdomofthesages.com if you want to get our newsletter, or if you'd like to just sign up for that or get more info on the Italy retreat. And of course, we got our Wisdom of the Sages retreat is happening when? In New York City at the Bhakti Center.
Yeah, June 10th through 12th.
June 10th through 12th. And also we're about to officially announce our Wisdom of the Sages retreat with Satchidananda Swami at Super Soul Farm in upstate New York. So that's all the latest. Hey, if you haven't gone to Apple Podcasts, I just read them yesterday. It's so uplifting. Go to Apple Podcasts, write a review of the show. Tell us how you got into Bhakti. Tell us your story. We love hearing from new people. Thanks for everybody for joining us.